Bring your own towel. A Dvar Torah for Parashat Tazria. When Douglas Adams explains in his book The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy the many advantages of the towel, one use is to wrap it around your head to avoid the gaze of the ravenous bug bladder beast of Troll. Is such a mind-bogglingly stupid animal that it assumes that if you can't see it, it can't see you. Daft as a brush, but very, very ravenous. This week, I felt that the Torah thinks that the ravenous bug bladder beast was right. The most prominent source is in Parashat Mitzorah, where it explicitly says that when a house is afflicted by tzarat, the householder must clear the house before the Kohen comes to see the tzarat, so that whatever is in the house doesn't become impure. That is, it's not the tzarat that defiles, but the sight of it. But it doesn't start there. In Perek Yud Gimel, the root ra'ah is repeated about 40 times, almost the same as the root tameh and tahor combined. Again, spotting and declaring the tzarat determines its status, not the tzarat itself. Interestingly, this criteria is not true to other impurities. In the verses about the impurity of the Zav, Zava, birthing woman, and Baal Keri, there is no mention of seeing at all. The rest of the impurities, at least according to the Torah verses, do not depend on sight. They function in the physical world. What happens is what counts. The impurity of the leper is different. The reality is determined by the testimony and not by the facts. In a world where the scientific approach reigns supreme, it's difficult to accept the concept that perception is decisive. After all, it would be unthinkable for a disease to wait to be diagnosed and only then become contagious. A doctor who bases his therapeutic practice on this assumption will probably be fired immediately. The Torah here seems to support a more postmodern approach with the Mitzorah. Reality is subjective. Everyone has their own narrative. There's no impurity until the Kohen has his say. Chazal emphasized this point in the Mishnayot in Masechet Negaim when they said that the time when the priest sees the nega can ease or aggravate the laws of the Mitzorah. It would seem, if so, that we cannot compare the Mitzorah to the physical sciences, but perhaps we can to the mental ones. Although there is one truth in the physical reality, our interpretations of reality vary from person to person and sometimes even the same person from time to time. Understanding this point is critical to the success of emotional treatments, in which the narrative is in many cases more important than reality itself. But it does not end with an emotional impact. The perception of reality has a direct effect on reality itself, as proven by many studies regarding the placebo effect. What I just said is not without difficulties. If the Kohen's say is only a placebo effect, why doesn't he declare a negative result and return the Mitzorah home without publicly excommunicating him? Why the Kohen and not the Mitzorah himself, or alternatively, any other expert? The Mishnah Negaim teaches that any expert can see the Negaim, but only the Kohen can determine tzarat. It describes an almost absurd situation where the Kohen is told to say impure or pure without understanding what he is saying. Why? In my opinion, and I might be wrong, like in many other cases, the Torah takes a middle position. Both reality and perception are important, which is why we need a third party. Not all narratives are equal. So why the Kohen? Again, just an hypothesis. The Mitzorah is removed from society. He's defiled, therefore a society built on the Mishkan and Temple based on purity would not want to approach him. He emerges from the camp and shouts, "Don't come near, I'm unclean." Sages in Masechet Arachin learn from various sources that tzarat comes as a punishment for 7 acts that push people apart. Therefore, he too is removed from the people. To receive an unbiased diagnosis, there's a necessity to contact someone who's non-partisan. The Mitzorah, who will lose a week's work, or maybe 2, or maybe even his home, may give a permissive diagnosis. The neighbor who's angry with him, or is interested in the area of his house and might want to be vindictive, he wants it. They go to a Kohen who has nothing to gain or lose since he has no property of his own. To summarize, sometimes narrative is important. Not all narratives are equal. And when hitchhiking in the galaxy, bring your own towel. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe or pass it on to a friend. They might enjoy it as well. I am Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.